Können wir uns bitte mal die verschiedenen Enden von Elden Ring angucken, Digga? Ich habe immer noch keine Ahnung, welche Enden es gibt. Wir hatten ja das Ende von
First, I
Frenzied
want to note that all of the endings include the final boss fight. A two-phase gauntlet first against Radagon, Vessel of the Elden Ring, and then against the Elden Beast, an eldritch space worm thing, which is a representative of the Greater Will, and that became the Elden Ring itself. There is plenty of lore to discuss with these two, but they don't differ between the endings, so they won't be as much a focus of this video. I'll suffice to say that Radagon is Marika, and they are a conflicted vessel or housing of the Elden Ring. According to the item description for Marika's hammer, the weapon they used during their fight, with hammer in hand, Marika shattered the Elden Ring, and then Radagon attempted to repair it. They are meant to be the god of the lands between, but it seems that Marika developed other plans. The Elden Beast, however, is higher up on the food chain. According to the incantation Elden Stars, long ago the Greater Will sent a golden star bearing a beast into the lands between, which would later become the Elden Ring. The Greater Will is a great outer god, one of at least a few which exists outside the lands between. It is essentially the greater god of the Elden Ring, the Erd Tree, and the Golden Order. It's also very Lovecraftian. So the Elden Beast is a vassal of the Greater Will, and a living incarnation of the concept of order. It is also essentially the Elden Ring itself, the centerpiece of mainstream civilization, if we can call it that exists in the lands between. Once you overcome this utterly annoying boss fight, you are left on the stone platform to make your choice between the endings of Elden Ring.
Erstes Ende, Elden Lord, Variant, Age of Fracture.
The basic vanilla ending is that of becoming the Elden Lord. There are 4 variants on this ending, with the most straightforward being that of the Age of Fracture. Most NPCs point you towards becoming the Elden Lord. It seems like that's the whole goal of the Return of the Tarnished. It's what the Two Fingers and everyone in the Round Table hold says is what you need to do. So if you do it, and you play through the game without pursuing any extra quests, you get this ending. You become the Elden Lord and usher in the Age of Fracture. You do this by returning the head of fractured Marika and restoring the Elden Ring, with you as its lord. A golden hue returns to the sky and land, and you sit on the throne. But you may notice that the light is not of shining gold. In the shots of the leaves and the throne, the light is more like that of a sunset, with your shadow clearly visible in the orange light.
Okay, also das ist das Ende quasi, wenn man keine andere Sidequest gemacht hat, weder Rani noch Frenzied Finger, was auch immer.
Almost like the sun is setting on this age, despite your recent ascension to Lord.
Und wir werden der Elden Lord, der Neue.
This is pretty unsurprising for From Software. This Age of Fracture reads like a simple continuation of the problems that led to the start of the game.
Und wir führen die Geschichte einfach fort, so als hätte sich gar nichts
The
geändert.
cycle is
Wir nehmen einfach den Platz ein vom vorherigen Elden Lord.
continued with nothing truly resolved. Oftentimes, the most straightforward ending in FromSoft games is not the one that thematically resolves the issues of the game. To some extent in Dark Souls, and really in Dark Souls 3, the basic ending of relinking the flame is simply prolonging the issue, continuing a cycle of stagnation that really should probably be broken. The Age of Fracture is just that. The lands between are still broken and beholden to the whims of the Greater Will. The sun is setting on this age, one unquestionably afflicted by stagnation, and one with not a thing resolved. This basic ending doesn't rock the boat, but it doesn't lead to a resolution either. Now we can explore the variant endings, where you still become an Elden Lord, but bring about a different age. First is the Age of
Also das ist jetzt eine andere Variante vom ersten Ending. Wir werden trotzdem Elden Lord, aber Age of Order statt Age of Fracture.
Order. This ending is achieved by completing the questline for Gold Mask and Brother Corrin. Adherents of the Golden Order and the faith of the Erd Tree.
Ich hab den, glaube ich, gesehen, diesen NPC. Ich hab den gesehen. Da gab es eine Cutscene, der dann so geguckt hat, irgendwie Richtung Elden Ring, Elden Tree.
Completing their questline brings about the Mending Rune of Perfect Order, an item you can pick up from a dead Gold Mask. This unlocks a choice at the end of the game to use this rune to mend the Elden Ring with, and if you do so, a golden circle surrounds the Elden Ring at the center of Marika. Golden light fills the sky and shines down from above, showering you, the Elden Lord, in gold. The description for the Mending Rune of Perfect Order states that it is a rune of transcendental ideology, which will attempt to perfect the Golden Order. The current imperfection of the Golden Order, or instability of ideology, can be blamed upon the fickleness of the gods, no better than men. That is the fly in the ointment. It also states that it was discovered, not created, by Goldmask, an important distinction that will come up later with the other variants. So this sounds like a better ending than the Age of Fracture. A flaw in the Golden Order was noticed, and Goldmask, a ceaseless watcher of the Erd Tree, discovered a possible solution. Though Brother Corrin is not so sure. If you speak to him in the ash-filled capital, he is on verge of a mental break.
The Master was nothing more than a madman, enchanted by a vain and ruinous delusion. He rejected the perfection of the Golden Order, seeking to supplant our glorious faith with his own. Could there be a more pitiable comedy? Look at it. The culmination of perfection, burning before our very eyes.
He says that Goldmask was actually a madman, and that his final attempt to fix things, his discovery, is tantamount to heresy, a rejection of the Golden Order. Now, even if Corrin isn't the soundest judge, the description of the rune claims the current imperfection is caused by the fickleness of the gods, no better than men. But the new order we create rests on us, the Tarnished, and who's to say we do not share in such fickleness? There's no evidence that we as the player character, or any other Tarnished, in terms of virtue, are any better than the gods. The new order may have a golden light, but it still seems to do its best to maintain the status quo of the Elden Ring and the Greater Will. The Age of Order is an improvement on the Age of Fracture, but it seems at best to be a better prolonging of fate, and a continuation of subjugation by an outer god.
Also in dem Ende, mit der Variation geht es darum, dass du trotzdem Eldenlord wirst, aber und das Ganze auch eine Verbesserung ist zu der ersten Variante, nämlich Age of Fracture. Aber das Ganze macht es halt nicht besser, weil man immer noch dem Greater Will folgt. Wogegen Marika eigentlich war am Ende. Dritte Variation vom ersten Ending mit Elden Lord ist Age of the Duskborn.
Next is the Age of the Duskborn, brought about by completing the questline of death associated with Fia. Finishing this questline will award the player with the
Fia ist die, auf dessen Schoß wir uns mal gelegt haben.
Mending Rune of the Death Prince, a rune gestated, but not discovered, by Fia. This ending has the Death Prince rune circumscribe the bottom of the Elden Ring. Then a misty gray shrouds the world, a rain of seeming ash under which no leaf stirs. In this gray rain, we sit as Elden Lord of a land that will know death for the first time in ages.
Ah, verstehe. Ich habe vergessen wer, aber irgendjemand hat ja die Rune des Todes entfernt und dadurch konnten die Lebewesen nicht mehr endgültig sterben. Sie sind quasi zum Elden Tree gegangen und sind dann irgendwann wieder geboren. Und in diesem Ende gibt es dann Tod. Ein für alle Mal. Und man kehrt nicht wieder zurück.
The rune of the Death Prince is made up of the two curse marks of death, which appeared at the time of the death of the first demigod. This rune creates an order of Death Restored, a return of death after its confinement during the creation of the original Golden Order. This also, Fia hopes, stays the persecution of those who live in death, no longer to be hunted by the likes of people like Dee. So this is a significant departure from the original Order, as it brings back a core element of existence that the Order removed, the concept and possibility of death. Despite this being another Elden Lord ending, the original intent of the Elden Ring and the Greater Will seems to actually be mired. To what extent is left unclear though. As you still become an Elden Lord and conventionally restore the Elden Ring, this might just be a bump in the road for the designs of the Greater Will. Now, the possibility of death does allow for some thematic resolution, because the stagnation of endlessly living now has an answer: death. However, the simple presence of death doesn't seem to metaphysically change the world or the overarching situation of the lands between. So I'm not sure we can say that this ending brings with it much meaningful change.
Nächste Variante ist, du wirst trotzdem okay, also, ja, Tod existiert halt in dieser Variation. Und das entspricht dann der, Ordnung, die es davor gab. Das ist die Variante Blessing of Despair. Auch da wärst du auch Elden Lord.
The final variant of becoming an Elden Lord is the Blessing of Despair, brought about by completing the Dung Eater's questline. Finishing this questline will award the player with the Mending Rune of the Fell Curse, a loathsome rune gestated by the Dung Eater. This ending has the Fell Curse rune cover the Elden Ring with its decrepit blight. The world is covered by an apocalyptic sky of swirling orange sores. The Erd Tree is a pale white. The leaves don't stir, and the throne is surrounded by a dank fog. And the Fell Curse defines the age, one of a blessing of despair. This ending is a fitting one to pair with the Dung Eater, a reviled curse of a man in his own right, and from him we can learn more about this blessing of despair. The Seabed Curse, the item which is needed to progress Dung's quest and achieve this ending, states that it is a curse grown on a corpse killed and defiled by the Dung Eater, a tender pox afflicted with omen horns. By doing so, he prevents dead souls returning to the Erd Tree, leaving them forever cursed.
Ja, also, ne, er ist ja der Schänder, ne, und er schändet die Lebewesen so sehr, dass sie dann nicht wieder zurück zum Erdentree können und dann irgendwann wiederbelebt werden, sondern sie sterben, aber bleiben dann halt in dieser Leichenform und wandern halt über diese ganze über diese Länder, über das Land dazwischen. Land between.
One of the most loathsome things found in the lands between. So, this action is a travesty to the normal order. The description of the curse rune says that when it is used on the Elden Ring, that the curse will last eternally, afflicting every generation of the world.
Also, das heißt, in dem Ende wird quasi jedes Lebewesen auf die Art und Weise geschändet, dass es nie wieder zurückkehren kann. Und einmal gestorben, bleibt es halt in dieser Leichenform. Bibi Launder.
But what is this affliction really? We know it prevents souls from returning to the Erd Tree, but if the Order and the Erd Tree are not benevolent entities, then this might not be a bad thing. It could be that, with that in mind, we can understand the name of this ending, how despair can be a blessing. After all, the description of the curse rune also states, if order is defiled entirely, defilement is defilement no more, and for every curse, a cursed blessing. Perhaps this total defilement of the order is able to bring out a world where separation from the Erd Tree is a blessing. Maybe such a separation could constitute a proper end to existence, a true death. Also important to note is the connection of the Fell Omen. The Seedbed.
Also das Ende wirkt halt sehr negativ, aber eigentlich ist es ja nicht so negativ, weil für einige ist ja dieser Erdtree wird ja angesehen als Parasit und für einige ist es dann ein Segen, dass sie nicht zum Erdtree wieder zurückkehren, sondern dann tatsächlich wirklich sterben.
Seabed Curse has omen horns. The full rune name is Mending Rune of the Fell Curse, and the Dung Eater's helm describes itself as a malformed helm resembling an omen with its horns cut off. So not the boils or pus that it might originally seem, but cut off omen horns is what dons the Dung Eater's armor. The helm also states of the Dung Eater himself that he has the heart of an omen without the body to match. Could there be any crueler existence? What does it matter then if the curse claims it all? So there are inexorable links to the omen, cursed and reviled beings. And this reads a bit nihilistic. After the suffering the omen have endured, responding in kind by cursing the world. So is this really a blessing found through despair, or simply a curse by another name? There are also possible connections to the boss Moog, twin of Morgott and Lord of Blood. He has a connection with an outer god other than the Greater Will, one called the Mother of Truth or the Formless Mother, who bestows power upon accursed blood, like the blood of the Omen. Some players think there might be another secret ending called the Age of the Blood that deals with Moog, but nothing concrete has been found. Though a connection between this Blessing of Despair ending and the secrets of the Omen does seem unquestionable. Okay, so
Das zweite Ende, The Age of Stars. Das kenn ich noch gar
that
nicht.
ends the variants of the Elden Lord ending. Next is the second major ending, the Age of Stars. This ending is brought about by completing the Witch Rani's questline and summoning her to the stone platform. initiating her blue summon sign will bring about a wholly new cutscene, in which Ranni is the one who returns the head of Fractured Marika. And then she speaks.
To every living being and every living soul. Now cometh the age of the stars. 1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon. Here beginneth the chill night that encompasses all, reaching the great beyond. Into fear, doubt, and loneliness, as the path stretcheth into darkness.
Before you then take her hand as her eternal consort. This ending is both ominous and optimistic. Themes of fear, doubt, and loneliness are usually dark and frightful, but they also symbolize independence and a breakaway from dogmatic ideology, such as the faith of the Golden Order and Erdtree. You can actually speak with Ranni again after finishing her quest but before this ending. There is a new grace at the top of her rise, and here she explains the order she envisions.
I take it thou hast noticed. I shouldn't be surprised. I thought I might expound a little further upon the order I envision.
Also ich habe das Ende noch bis jetzt gar nicht verstanden, Leute.
Mine will be an order not of gold, but the stars and moon of the chill night. I would keep them far from the earth beneath our feet. As it is now, life and souls and order are bound tightly together. But I would have them at a great remove, and have the certainties of sight, emotion, faith, and touch all become impossibilities, which is why I would abandon this soil with mine order.
Und sie erstellt eine neue Welt, wo jeder Frieden hat.
Wouldst thou come to me even now, my one and only Lord?
This dialogue falls in line with the final cutscene. Ranni rejects the machinations of the Greater Will and its representative, the Two Fingers. No order of its gold will be had. Instead, an order of loneliness where people do not have the crutch of faith, but perhaps through this they gain greater control of their own path, choosing how they wish to make their way through the darkness Ranni mentions. The description of Celestial Dew, the item you use to absolve your sins in the Church of Vows, might also hint at this. It states, "Once upon a time, the stars of the night sky guided fate," and this is a recollection of those times. A time when the night stars guided fate could mean there's some outer god associated with night and stars, but it could also mean something like what humans in our own world have done, using stars to navigate seas and lands, saving stories and legends in the constellations. In our new dark
Also auf jeden Fall ist dieses Ende gegen das Greater Will Vorhaben.
Under the stars, we can find our own path and make use of the night sky as a tool, not
Ja,
for
ja.
dogmatic
Also
decree,
dieses Ende ist
but as a
gegen
part of our
den Greater
personal
Will.
journey. So, and this is obviously my interpretation, a lot of this is, this Age of Stars ending bears similarity to what I would call the best or canon ending of Dark Souls 3, where you summon the Firekeeper and let the flame go out. That ending, too, is ominous, but it is also one of hope, of facing the new darkness to grow and progress, and doing so with the Firekeeper by your side. In Elden Ring, we the player take the more secondary role as Ranni's consort, but the motifs and thematic resolution are pretty much the same. This really leads me to favor this ending as the one most in line with the driving themes of the story. It gives the most resolution to the kinds of ideas touched on in the story, and it seems to me to be the best fit for a best or canon ending. Obviously, FromSoft leaves these endings interpretational because they enjoy the aspect of players determining their own story in the game, but even in a meta way, this ending aligns with that kind of vision, because it's the ending most free from control of any outside force.
Ja.
It is the ending symbolic of the player making their own story. And I also want to
Ja, also dieser Greater Will Gott hat halt quasi dann keine Macht mehr über die Geschehnisse und jeder hat so seine eigene Freiheit.
point out that this interpretation of the ending can find support in the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche, which bears influence not only on Berserk, an inspiration for the dark fantasy of FromSoft, and something directly paid homage to in this game of Elden Ring, but it also bears influence directly on some of FromSoft's.
Ich habe mal einen Short gesehen, wo irgendwie stand, dass ich habe Berserk, den Anime, nie gesehen, aber ich habe eine Story gesehen gehabt, dass wohl angeblich die ganze Story von Elden Ring auf dem Anime von Berserk basiert. Habt ihr mal sowas gehört, oder ist das so?
Themes. The ever-striving and overcoming challenge, especially in relation to the self, was extremely central to Nietzsche, and the themes present in this ending mirrors a lot of his work in the books Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Beyond
Es gibt halt sehr viele Parallelen, ne, zwischen Elden Ring und Berserk.
Good and Evil, and The Gay Science. Nietzsche saw the end of faith in our own world, the death of God as he put it, as leaving us stranded, in fear and isolation, just as Ronnie says. But while the end of this grand illusion may be disconcerting, it is also freeing. Nietzsche writes, "Finally the horizon seems clear again, even if not bright. Finally our ships may set out again, set out to face any danger. Every daring of the lover of knowledge is allowed again. The sea, our sea, lies open again. Maybe there has never been such an open sea."
Miyazaki ist halt ein Berserk-Fan. Ist
Just
das der
like the
Macher von
open
Elden Ring?
sea of Nietzsche, the horizon of the Age of Stars is not bright, but it
Ich kenn
is
den Namen
clear.
nicht. Nie drauf geachtet.
Darkness abounds, but the stars dot the sky, and the living beings of the lands between are free to make their own voyage. Finally, we have
So, das letzte Ende, das 6. Ende, das 3. Ende ohne Variation, The Lord of Frenzied Flame. Das ist das Ende, was wir gewählt haben. Ich bin echt gespannt, was er hier zu erzählen hat.
the third main ending, the Lord of Frenzied Flame. This ending is different because it is achieved by finding and interacting with the three fingers at some point during the game. Not the two fingers, but the three fingers, the ones behind the spells of Frenzy and Frenzied Flame. Once this interaction condition is met, you are locked into the ending, and you activate it by simply interacting with Fractured America at the end of the game. You can actually unlock yourself from this ending, but to achieve it, you have to be locked into it. If you find the three fingers below the capital before you end the game, you become marked with burns and fingerprints, and your eyes take on the glow of the Chaos Flame. Then, at the end, you become Lord of the Frenzied Flame. The head of Fractured America will crumble, your head will be replaced by an orb of Chaos Flame, and that flame will engulf the world, obliterating the Erd Tree and setting the lands between alight in yellow fire and fingerprints of the three fingers. There is no narration to
Stimmt, die Fingerabdrücke sind mir auch aufgefallen, als das passierte. Und der Erdtree ist halt komplett weggebrannt.
this ending, just the sound of fire crackle and smolder and ominous howls and strings. The very sky itself seems to burn. So this ending is ostensibly bad. The utter destruction is hard to view as anything else, but it is important to understand what's happening before we pass judgment. If you complete Hayate's questline, she is waiting nearby the Three Fingers. She can become your maiden and tell you the words of the Three Fingers.
All that there is came from the one great. Then came fractures, and births, and souls. But the greater will made a mistake. Torment, despair, affliction, every sin, every curse, every one born of the mistake. And so, what was borrowed must be returned, melted all away with the yellow chaos flame, until all is one again.
The Three Fingers would have you burn it all away with the Chaos Flame, until all is one again, in Evangelion fashion. So this ending is one of coalescence. Through a destructive process, all is brought together into one entity. This one great is ambiguous. Perhaps everything was once it, or perhaps it formed a single outer god, or all the life in the realm of the lands between's world. It is also hard to see exactly the relation between the greater will and the entity behind the Three Fingers, what the wiki calls the Frenzied Flame. If we take the Two Fingers and the Three Fingers together, we get Five Fingers, or a whole hand. Perhaps they used to be this one great, before the greater will split them to create its own path or domain. There is also the fact that the Frenzied Flame and its incantations have to do with madness. many of the incantations turn others mad, which plays into the Lovecraftian idea of his great old ones, otherworldly gods or entities from space. Encountering these beings is too much for a human mind to comprehend. So, in Lovecraft's stories, it goes mad or insane when it nears them. The outer gods of Elden Ring share many parallels with Lovecraft's deities, especially in the ocean sea monster that is.
Also wir zerstören in diesem Ende alles und jeden. Sind wir dann der Meinung, also sind wir dann quasi gegen Greater Will, dem Gott, oder sind wir auf seiner Seite? Ich habe das nicht ganz verstanden.
Is the Elden Beast, and in the incomprehensibility of the frenzied flame. While this ending is a departure from the plans of the Greater Will, it is simply an arrival into the plans of another great being, another outer god. The subsuming of everything into the yellow flame also seems too bleak to be a satisfying ending to our tale. It is surely an intriguing and grandiose finale, but it leaves out much of the rich themes present throughout the story.
Wieder noch die drei Finger haben dich quasi übernommen. Aber das Ding ist, wir haben ja die zwei, ich hab gerade in meinen Händen das nachgeguckt. Also die drei Finger, die wir gesehen haben, das waren die drei Finger. Mittelfinger, Zeigefinger, Daumen, weil wir den Daumen gesehen hatten, wie er ihn so gedrückt hatte. Und die zwei Finger in der Tafelrunde, das sind die kleiner Finger und Ringfinger. So. Die beiden. Und die zusammen ergeben ja eine ganze Hand. Also 5 Finger. Also kannst du eigentlich nicht. Weißt du, was ich meine? Also hat es ja irgendwie eine Connection zwischen dem Greater Will und und die zwei Finger sind ja das Gefäß vom Greater Will. Und die drei Finger ist einen eigenen Weg gegangen. Greater Will hat die gesplittet. Ich glaube, die gehörten zusammen und die drei Finger haben sich gespalten und haben ihr eigenes Ding gemacht.
Oh, and I almost forgot one more thing. If you lock into this ending before Melina burns herself, your body acts as kindling, and she doesn't die. Instead, we get a new cutscene at the end, of Melina, with eyes switched, promising to hunt us down. She is reminiscent of Ranni, with their respective closed eyes and Ranni's shadow face, and overall, I have little reason to think that Melina is a malicious actor. So I'm chalking this up to another point against this ending as achieving proper resolution. So, there we have the known endings to Elden Ring, explained. I do want to make note that another theorized yet unconfirmed ending, the Age of Absolute, is one that has been tossed around a bit and with more substantiation than the Age of Blood. This ending of the Absolute is supported by data mines of the closed network test, which reveal continuations of the questlines for some NPCs. NPCs like Nefeli Lu, Kenneth Haight, and Gostok. I don't really remember how to pronounce his name. There's also the section of Stormvale Castle that prevents combat, likely because it was intended to house NPCs like the Round Table Hold. So it seems that there actually is something real to this ending, with it likely being another variation of the Elden Lord ending, affected by finishing an NPC questline. In any case, whether it was cut currently in a glitched form or saved for a DLC, there has so far been no evidence that it is an achievable ending to the game at this moment. If by the time this video comes out there is such evidence, please let me know since I have yet to see it. And that does it for my analysis of the endings in Elden Ring. Plenty of what I have discussed here could do for its own standalone video. There's lots of lore with all of these endings and the characters and the questlines, and I will likely make some of those videos, along with other lore videos on the game. So, thank you for watching, and be sure to stick around if you're looking to discover more of the lore of the Lands Between. And leave in the comments your own lore theories and if I got anything wrong.
Ja, schön. Gut, haben wir auch verstanden. 6 verschiedene Enden, wobei es eigentlich nur 3 verschiedene Enden gibt. Das erste Ende ist aufgesplittet in eine Variation von 3 oder 4. Wo man Eldenlord wird, aber immer in unterschiedlichen Formen. Dann haben wir das Ende von Ranni und das Ende der 3 Finger. Interessant. Also es gibt auf jeden Fall Enden, die dem Outer Gott, dem Greater Will, so auf der Seite sind und halt Enden, die halt so ein bisschen dagegen spielen. Ich muss sagen, ich bin sehr überwältigt von der ganzen Story immer noch, auch wenn ich mir diese Videos jetzt angeguckt habe. und kann das halt noch nicht so ganz so begreifen. Wenn ich mir aber bei einem ziemlich sicher bin, dann darin, dass Elden Ring ein sehr, sehr gutes Gameplay hat und es hat mir sehr viel Spaß gemacht, unabhängig davon, ob ich es jetzt verstanden habe oder nicht verstanden habe. In diesem Sinne, viel Spaß weiterhin. Ich freue mich auf das DLC. Ja, also nach dem Ende meines Streams habe ich mich noch mal ein bisschen beschäftigt mit den verschiedenen Enden in Elden Ring, weil mich das doch ein bisschen gejuckt hat in den Fingern und dabei bin ich auf diesen Reddit-Beitrag gestoßen, den ich sehr amüsant finde und der beschreibt eigentlich ganz genau, wie die Enden zu verstehen sind. Also zuallererst fragen wir uns, wie planen wir die Probleme der Welt zu beheben, zu verbessern? Oder haben wir es überhaupt vor? Wenn die Antwort nein ist, dann gehen wir Age of Fracture. Das ist das Ende hier. Also es bleibt alles so, wie es ist, nur mit dem Unterschied, dass es einen neuen Elden Lord gibt, nämlich ihr selber. Falls wir weder das Problem fixen noch beibehalten möchten, können wir auch den Weg des eigenen Problems gehen. Und zwar, das ist das Ende von Age of Despair. Das heißt also der Dung Eater, die Pestbeule. Das heißt, wir stürzen die ganze Welt ins Chaos und wir quasi schänden weiterhin die ganzen Lebewesen. Das wäre das Ende. Falls wir aber vorhaben, das Problem zu fixen, falls wir vorhaben, das Problem zu ändern, dann gehen wir den mittleren Weg. Und jetzt ist die Frage, was stört uns an dem Problem? Ne, was ist das Problem für uns? Wir sagen auf der einen Seite, die Outer Gods Meinung oder der Willen des Greater Wills ist blöd, dann gehen wir den linken Pfad und hier haben wir dann die Auswahl zwischen folgenden 3 Wegen. Wie möchten wir dieses System abändern? Auf der einen Seite, wir können nicht. Das heißt also, wir brennen alles nieder mit Age of Frenzied Flame. Das ist das Ende mit den 3 Fingern, was ich auch gewählt habe. Wir möchten das System abändern und zu unseren Gunsten auslegen und etwas verbessern, aber eigentlich gehen wir trotzdem den Weg des Greater Wills. Dann gehen wir den Weg des Age of Orders mit der goldenen Maske. Oder wir möchten das System komplett ersetzen und gehen dann quasi die Age of Stars Ende ein und da geben wir die Rani-Quest ein. Und das würde dann das ganze System quasi ersetzen. Und zu guter Letzt sollte es uns egal sein, wer Outer God ist und was er macht und ob Greater Will da ist oder nicht. Wir sind einfach nur verzweifelt nach Pussys. Dann fragen wir uns, ob wir noch die Questreihe von Rani bereits gemacht haben. Wenn nicht, dann machen wir diese Questreihe, weil wir lieben Pussys. Und falls wir diese Questreihe bereits gemacht haben, dann gehen wir Age of Duskborn, weil wir lieben Pussys und treffen dort 4, die wieder tot nach Elden Ring bringt. Jetzt, wo ich das sehe, ärgere ich mich natürlich sehr, dass ich das Age of Frenzied Flame Ende gewählt habe, denn eigentlich liebe ich Pussys. Schreibt gerne mal in die Kommentare, welches Ende ihr gesehen habt. Ich bin sehr gespannt drauf.